Okay, we're back and we're gonna do two more of these moments. So we're gonna start with long day. It was another scorching summer day, the kind where no sooner had you finished one cup of water, you were already filling it up again. Everyone else had something on, so that afternoon it was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since Cove had arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked to you for all the answers. It made you feel kind of frustrated. He was always wanting to hear what you thought instead of giving his own opinion and expected you to come up with the plans. It was hard work, especially for a hot day. He drained yet another drink and frowned at the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy cold and refreshing. Something sweet, something like popsicle, ice cream cone, ice cream sandwich. Ice cream sandwich. You craved soft ice cream sandwich between two cookies. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your moms didn't keep sweets in the house. Outside, there were plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained, but they were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. You sighed, you voiced your predicament out loud. Asked Shiloh for help. Shiloh, do you have any money?
Oh,
Well, let me check. That was easy. You felt like you should tell him why you were asking. Thanks. I want an ice cream sandwich, but my moms don't keep any here. Shiloh rummaged in his backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins, plus one straight button. He set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. You announced this to Shiloh. He had almost certainly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly. It's a start. Shiloh beamed at you. We'll need to find some more. Okay. The two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down in the deep crevices in the sofa and under furniture, and scoured the back of drawers. Most of what you found was useless or gross, bent paper clips, fluffy wisps of dust or sandy crumbs, but every so often one of you would strike silver or bronze and add it to the growing pile of coins. Your mind wandered to the $20 bill tucked away in your room. It was enough for you and Shiloh to get whatever you wanted and more, but you didn't take it out. That was too special to hand over so freely. Besides, Shiloh would be curious about where it came from and might even mention your wealth to Lizzie. The exchange had been in secret. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room and squinting into every tiny nook, the two of you finished pooling your finds. Shiloh held his breath as you counted the coins once again. $2.53 and 2 buttons. You didn't know when the second button had decided to join the party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. Is that enough? You figured he knew the answer without looking at you for confirmation, but the thrill of your success and the reward that would follow canceled out any other feelings you might have had about that. Yeah. You can now afford something at the shops. Just one thing, but that was indefinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands. Yay! The two of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you on to your destination where, breathless but happy, you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who had contributed the funds to get the treat. You seemed to notice your pause. Aren't you getting an ice cream sandwich? Shiloh asked as though he was entirely separate from the decision, rather than someone who had a stake in the outcome. Do you mind? Shiloh cocked his head to the side. It was your idea. You should choose. You went ahead and got what you wanted originally. You sure it's okay? You tried to get something you both wanted anyway. It wasn't fair for you to be the only one to decide when he'd been a main factor in making this happen. Some of the money came directly from his backpack. What do you like? All of them. They're so good. He pressed further. But what do you really like? Popsicle or ice cream? Which is your favorite? It's hard to pick. I don't know. Frustrated, you cut to the heart of the matter. You want me to choose? Yeah. And that was that. You got the dessert you wanted originally and hoped Shiloh would actually like it too. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You bit the ice cream sandwich. The chewy chocolate biscuit complemented the creamy vanilla ice cream inside. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn. He shook his head. You can finish it. You didn't want any? After everything he did to help get it? That was weird. You accepted the offer, tried to include Shiloh. I hesitated.
okay.
It's okay, Ollie. You want it more than I do, and I'm really happy that we got to play today already. You finish it. Well, it wasn't worth arguing further. The frozen treat was being worn away by the sun and starting to trickle dangerously towards your fingers. If you waited much longer, then neither of you would be getting to eat it. Alright, thanks. The two of you began to head back home as you ate. You offered the treat once more to Shiloh, but he refused again. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt, or was too afraid to. Figured that was his problem and he didn't care. Are you scared of me? He thought that was kind of sad. Are we friends? Are we friends? Shiloh opened his eyes wide, seemingly caught off guard by the blunt question. Yeah, I think so. He says that, but friends should be able to talk to each other without being scared. If Shiloh wouldn't do that, were you even really friends at all? He rubbed his hands together nervously over your non-reaction. Sorry. You weren't sure how sorry he could be without knowing what he's even apologizing for, but you shook your head. He didn't do anything. It was true, Shiloh hadn't done something mean. He'd gone out of his way to make you happy. That didn't seem like it should be a bad thing, yet it bothered you. I just don't know if you like me. It's like it doesn't matter what I do. You're gonna act the same. I could be anybody and you wouldn't care. No, I like you. I really, really like you, Ollie. I want to be friends. Hey. You smiled hesitantly at him and his fidgeting ceased. Even though you weren't sure if you believed him, this was only making things worse. You decided that maybe there were all types of friends. If Shiloh wasn't able to do things differently, this would have to be alright. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending the afternoon with just him. There had been good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing, at least. The treat was delicious and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. Then you spotted two very familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to them just as you saw the tears in Cove's face. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Once there, you defended Cove, took a moment to make a joke. Accused Lizzie of causing trouble, carefully asked about what happened. Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out was by asking witnesses. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time or even come to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story. Cove, what happened? Ollie, I got yelled at. He took a deep breath. Some grandparents got mad at me. Oh, sorry. As you jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house, your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out that condo for the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have. You're like that with everyone. Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. It didn't matter if they were really nice like Cove. Yeah, Lizzie said. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction. I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I can do? No, I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There was a devilish glint in her eyes. What? You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great because they're so slow, they'll never catch you. That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever again. You're saying that because you're a cluck-cluck chicken. Cove glared, but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not a chicken, are you? I'd really just rather avoid them. You looked at the house behind those closed doors like two beings, rich in years but poor in patience. Maybe they deserved retaliation, maybe they didn't, but that punishment wouldn't be coming from you. It was safer to stay far away from them, especially since Cove took their outbursts to heart. I'm not doing it either. Another chicken for the coop. This is a hen house now. We're chickens. You're a lizard, Lizzie. She wagged her tongue at his face. Still better than a bird brain. Chicken. The condo door opened, revealing one of the two culprits. The old man's wizened face was set in a scowl, which was to say he looked exactly like he always did when you saw him. Maybe that was his normal face. What are you kids doing loitering outside my house? Maybe he was always just in a terrible mood. Nothing. He repeated the words as if it was the greatest crime anyone could commit. Nothing good, more like it. Get lost. It wasn't as if he owned the space outside the house, but Cove's eyes, still red from his earlier tears, were wide, and he thought it would be best to heed the old man's command. Lizzie took off, with Shiloh immediately trailing after her without so much as a glance back in your direction. So much for your friendship. You waved your arm at Cove, summoning him to follow you, and ran after Lizzie. The old man hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Only once you were safe did you notice the stitch in your chest and the ache in your legs. You flocked down, blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had taken the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The four of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of cool grass against your skin. Hey, Cove? Cove lifted his head. I told you there were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes, then decided that this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting to Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be the second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And it was fine. You still felt a little sad after how much time you spent together today. It was always annoying. I think it's fine. Shiloh could prefer Lizzie as much as he wanted to. There were other things to attend to anyway. You wriggled closer to Cove. He had calmed down for the most part and was inspecting a flower. His fingers pinched the stem and tilted the white petals toward him. That's a poppy. Cove glanced at you in acknowledgement, then back at the flower. And the type of poppies on this hill have the name White Linden Poppy. Mom told me. He quirked a smile. That's funny. He ran a finger around the edge of the petals. It doesn't feel like cloth. You need a lot of them to make anything. He nodded and released the delicate plant. Evaluation complete. This is my favorite kind of flower, but I didn't know what it was called. Thanks. Whoa, there are so many options. Why? I love sunflowers. Yeah, those are nice too. They're bright and awesome. You match with them. Thanks. You moved onto your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. A blanket of clouds reminded you of a thick row you curled under cold, rainy days. You wondered if the clouds would be as soft. They lazily floated on by, splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. You saw a dolphin, you saw a car, alpaca, smiley face, cloud shapes. Dolphin. You saw a dolphin leaping through the sky. You nudged Cove and pointed to it. Look, a dolphin. Cove joined you in gazing skywards. Yeah, I see it. Really? No, but I like dolphins. Hey. He chuckled at your reaction. All the sun's light faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach. There were no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. I wanted to go too, tired to argue. Happy to do, everyone else wanted or objected. I wanted to go. You eagerly joined the others into descending the hill down to the water. You stepped onto the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been only hours earlier. The four of you kicked shoes off and removed socks and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet. Wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything. That'd be bad for the fish. I didn't say anyone would do it. Jeez, you don't have to be serious about everything. You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It hurt the fishes. I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Me too. Bubble baths are luxurious. I've never heard Lizzie use that word before. Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, when's your mom coming to pick you up anyway? Not for a while. She's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does. Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed by the waves. Even if Shal never seemed upset when the topic came up, it made you feel awkward just for having both of your moms. It's okay. I'm like Lizzie and Ollie. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two moms. I just have one. She's really great. Oh, sorry. I only have one now, too. My mom isn't here. She's back home. It's just my dad with me.
Sorry.
Oh, never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom is gone. Cove nodded. Joked about Shiloh's mom getting together with Cove's dad. Even if they're all different, our parents are good in their own ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of Cove's spray zone with a grin. Retaliated. Used your foot to smack the water pooling around you, sending an arc of sea foam flying back onto your sister. You laughed as she spluttered, some of the salty seawater having landed in her mouth, and she spat it out. Yuck. Lizzie chased you, intent on revenge. You dashed up and down the coast, taking it in turns to be the predator and the prey, as well as joining forces to take down Shiloh or Cove. Alliances were silently forged and wordlessly spoken. Everything was fair game in war. Ah! Shiloh's brief explanation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming in from the rain, as you all hurried over to check on him. His hair was plastered to his head and his soaked clothes clung. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy. Are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over. Way to go, Shiloh, you Dumbo. Offered him some help. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh, too. He reached over and took it. Slowly, he started to pull himself from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them. Ugh. Sorry. What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? He thought they must be low. There's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made your journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand on your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside chatting with Cove's dad. We're back! Your mom's faces fell as they took in the state you were all in, ranging from messy to soaked. Elizabeth, is that all you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. They certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home? Cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You've been out making memories, bucko. I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun. That might be right. Kids, what can you do? Come on, Cove, let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset. Cove winced at the thought. Hey. Attaboy. Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove up off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sand was already transferring from Cove onto him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take care.
Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff. Night, best family, and Shiloh, too. Resigned to his fate, Cove twisted his body in his dad's arms in order to turn around and wave goodbye. Smiling, he waved back. Good night. Well, we'd better do what we can to fix you guys up, too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom. Yes, Mom. Okay, Lizzie's mom. Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight. Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found, you waited in the hall. Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go into your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. It felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packing away in his mom's car. Miss Fields has come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without that hat on for once. Lizzie being much more soaked than you got to go in the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she has hoped. This was a no fun allowed cleanup session. At least that's what she claimed. Not much longer it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Aw. That was kind of cute. That was a pretty long day. Alright, let's see what Sandcastle is about. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When him and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. There was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon, not with that cast. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering and blue, another reminder of the places he couldn't go. From what you heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. Like make a pact with a witch or something, just to get it off his arm. He thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and his dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go into the sea. This town wasn't bad, it had all of your favorite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach he'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon. Hope only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids. Yeah. Wish she didn't have a cast. I don't really care. Swimming might be fun if we could. Fine here on land. Mermaids aren't real. I'm fine here on land. Alright. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. Well, making sand stuff. I've never really made one before. Let's see. Let's see. I love making sand stuff. Okay. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through the process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have a humble structure prepared. That's all. Kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas. I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine's gonna be a real castle. Cool. This is gonna be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make a mansion. I want to be different. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to design a mansion. The better part of your next hour was spent focusing on your work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you'd built. It seems you got done so fast because they had already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of the shells, but there were still options. First thing he reached for was a green piece of sea glass. It was best fit for your mansion. It was see-through and sparkly, so you put it in a funny place where it'd take a second to look to see it. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. Look at Shiloh's sand house. Shiloh is definitely the best one out of all three of you at building sandcastles. His was also the smallest, but there were so many glittering debris and carved sand shapes all over the entire building that his effort was obvious. Shiloh's little house had even had a tiny garden by the front door and another one in the back, all made out of pebbles and other bits and bobs. The silence was broken. What's on top of yours, Shiloh? He peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke. It's good. That's smart. You should be an architect. You'd be good at it, Shiloh. Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was that for the current topic. Ollie, can I see what you did? Sure. He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. All you really knew about mansions was that they were supposed to be big, so you'd gone really big. It was the size of the country club that Lizzie played golf at, compared to Cove and Shiloh's buildings, probably even bigger. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the new conversation. Hey Ollie, what did you do? This is my mansion. It looks great. Your house is so big. It's not a big house, it's a mansion. His mansions are just really big houses. Huh? Is being a house bad?
No.
No, but we made our own place. Nobody is the same. Think we are. Cove raised an eyebrow at that. If something is the only one of that kind, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everyone is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special. Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Hey. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off again. There was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Ollie? He waited to see if Shiloh would say what he wanted to. When he didn't, you considered Cove's question. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Ollie's parents and my dad met the same day I met them. I'm going to say what happened. Shiloh frowned at himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. It was kind of boring for him, but giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important too. I think Shiloh wants to talk too. Huh? We were talking, just not right now. I'm talking to you, he can listen. Shiloh's expression barely flickered at the words. He still looked put off. Cove continued like the interruption hadn't happened. He was determined to tell the tale. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us. Only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed, he waved his hand and went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said, I couldn't hear him. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Aren't you gonna finish your story? Cove's brow wrinkled, like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
Huh?
That's all that happened. Okay. Why did you want to tell the story if nothing happened? Really gotta get better at telling stories. It was a bad story, thanks for telling me. Okay. You're welcome. Even if not much happened, you weren't gonna complain about knowing the story. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders. I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved here. Dad showed me the beach first before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. I get it. He thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line in conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? You're always turning so red, even when nothing is happening. Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this, perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh, a huge deal. He didn't just look sad, he seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody's named Cove. Who asked you to come? It was probably just your dad bugging Ollie's family some more, because you don't have anyone else who will ever play with you. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to laugh off. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about. You hadn't even ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Me too, I was just wondering. Let's build another sandcastle you try to play on your own. Are we gonna build more? Want to keep building sandcastles? Yeah, okay. Cove glanced at Shiloh, whose smile hadn't returned to full power, then at you. Alright. What a relief. You were glad it was settled. You all went back to making more sandcastles, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared on the beach to take him home. At least you tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own houses. The two of you trailed out to the park together toward the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. I asked what he's thinking. Something was definitely up, so you chose to reach out to him and ask. Hey Cove, is everything okay? You're making a funny face. Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again with a few more seconds inside. Why did Shiloh act like that? When I said he was all red a lot. He gets embarrassed. Embarrassed? But I didn't say anything that bad. Might have upset him anyway. Yes, I can get it. Why would he do that? Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, Ollie, was Shiloh telling the truth? Huh? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talks to your moms about that a lot. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know what happened when you met Mr. Holden. Nobody's making me spend time with you. Your dad does do stuff so you'll hang out with my family, but Shiloh shouldn't have said that. Decided to tell him about his dad offering you money. I want to say no one's making me spend time with you. Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had been tensed up. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I didn't think you were pretending. I just wanted to make sure it was okay is all. Thanks for telling me. Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard. You're welcome. By now the two of you were on the sidewalk near your house. It was time to part ways. I said goodbye, hugged Cove goodbye, nudged his shoulder. Nudged his shoulder. Gave him a fond push forward. Bye, see you tomorrow. He laughed a little and playfully pushed your hand back. He didn't mind the bit of rowdiness at all. Hi. And you jogged towards your house. You looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home too. As if he felt your eyes on him, he turned around, he waved. You did too. You still felt a little unsure with what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. It would be terrible if it made him feel bad. What if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime. There was always tomorrow after all, but for now it was definitely something that you'd keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. Oh, heck, that was it? Okay. Well, we did 2 more moments. Next time, we're going to do fireflies and dip into, again, I hope these work because I did get the DLCs for this, so that way we'd have more moments to live, but we're going to do fireflies and library next time. So see you in the next episode. I hope you like this. See ya.